Today on TFL Bike, we have news from Honda, specifically from Honda Japan. This is some forbidden fruit, and it's called the Hawk 11.
Yeah, we wanted to, even though we're not getting this here in the US just yet, we don't know if it's coming down the line, we wanted to still share this news with you because one, it's a pretty cool looking bike, but two, you guys seem to love your Honda news, and it's exciting, so we figured we'd share it with you.
Yeah, and plus it's interesting to know what's going on in the motorcycle industry, and this type of bike is becoming more popular. More people are into the retro styling. I know I definitely am. I'm starting to get Alex there, so basically where this news is coming from is the Osaka Motorcycle Show, and this bike is based on the Africa Twin and a bike overseas called the NT 1100, which is a touring machine, but this version of that engine chassis setup is a funky retro cafe racer.
Yeah, so we'll get into the engine specs and tell you that because we know a lot of that from looking at the Africa Twin. But first, just looking at the general design, like Kase said, it's a cafe racer with this really funky front end fairing on it with this really cool round headlight. Total mix of retro and kind of modern futuristic looking design there, and it looks really similar to Triumph's Speed Triple 1200 RR that we covered a couple months ago. Honestly, if you took the badging off, at a quick glance, you might think they're the same bike in just two different colors. They're really similar.
Yeah, they are really similar, especially the shape of that front fairing. It's that old school cafe front fairing that sweeps back really far, both on the top and on the bottom. A couple other cool things on this bike. You've got, of course, a sporty short set of handlebars, but what's interesting about them is they have their mirrors mounted below so that you don't have anything sticking up too high. It kind of keeps those clean lines over the top of the bike, which I think is pretty retro, pretty old school. What's not quite as retro is looking towards the back of the motorcycle. There's a lot more hard angular lines. You can see composite materials that aren't painted. So as you get towards the back of the bike, it definitely looks more modern. You can tell that this is obviously not an old school bike, but at the front around that fairing, it looks very classic. And even the tank is a little bit more modern looking. That's got a lot of hard lines on it. Something else that I really like on this bike are the wheels.
Yeah, the wheels are really cool, especially in that bright silver color. It just really pops, matches the frame of this bike, LED headlight. You have all the modern touches you would expect on a bike in 2022, but a little bit of retro styling and just a really cool front fairing.
So now we can dig into some of the tech specs and the details. Because this bike is based on the same platform as the Africa Twin, it shares that motor. It's a 1082cc parallel twin, single overhead cam unicam engine from bikes that we've seen before. So judging by the specs on those bikes that are already existing with that engine, you would expect the power to be around 101 horsepower and 77 pound-feet of torque. Honda hasn't revealed an official figure for this particular motorcycle, but we can expect that it'll pretty much be those same numbers. This engine is 4-stroke and it's also water-cooled. You can see a radiator up at the front of the bike, so there's no heat fins on the side of the motor. That's another thing that keeps this from looking like a truly retro bike, because most old school bikes are water-cooled, and the engine just has a very different appearance to it.
Yeah, one thing I noticed too that's a little funky is this cover on the headers right there.
Yeah.
Something you don't see too often, just a little bit of a funky design element. Also, 6-speed transmission on this bike, which is to be expected, but when we tested the Rebel 1100 last year, we tested that with the DCT. So this is a motor that both in the Rebel and the Africa Twin here in the States, they're putting a DCT into. So has the potential to go that route if Honda wanted to.
Again, no word yet if they would add the DCT to this bike. I wouldn't be upset personally. I know there's a lot of people out there that love the DCT. I wouldn't be upset if they didn't add it to this bike, because again, you're leaning a little bit more classic, more retro, and while Honda did make Honda-matics in the past, I think shifting a bike in general, and especially a bike that's supposed to be a little old school, is right. I think it should be that way. This motorcycle, it looks cool, 101 horsepower, that's not bad for output, but it's definitely not going to be an absolute rocket ship, because it does weigh in at apparently a claimed 524 pounds, so it's a little on the thick side.
Yeah, it's a little heavy. I mean, it definitely looks really sporty, but you're going to feel that weight if you try pushing this thing pretty hard.
That's held up in the front end by a set of inverted Showa forks. You've also got 310mm discs with Nissan calipers on the front. And you have 17-inch wheels, so you can get a nice set of rubber on there. If you were Alex, you could put easily a set of slicks on it.
Yeah, this would actually be kind of a fun-looking track bike.
Minus the fact that it's heavy.
Yeah. That's true. Strip some weight off though. The LCD instrumentation is pretty much the same exact thing you'd find on the Rebel 1100s, so pretty much a carryover there. And we don't have pricing on this bike yet. We don't even know if it's coming to the States yet. And actually, it's not even coming to Europe yet. This is just for the Asian markets right now. But the Africa Twin here costs about $14,500. So you can expect the pricing to fall somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it would be right around there. This is overall a relatively simple bike. I personally wouldn't expect it to be more expensive than the Africa Twin. I mean, the Africa Twin has a lot in the way of suspension that this wouldn't have, and that LCD screen is pretty simple. I mean, it does have that nice round LED headlight and things like that, but there's no components on this bike that seem crazy premium in a way that would drive up that price really high.
No, I don't think so at all, and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if Honda brings out any news of this coming to the US. I hope it does. Like I said, we have that Speed Triple 1200 RR here from Triumph. This would be a direct competitor to that. You know, if you want a bike that style, there's really only one option right now, and so why not bring another one here and have two?
And even though this is forbidden fruit and this isn't something that Honda has claimed any plans to bring here to the US or, like you said, even Europe, this is the kind of thing that we wanted to cover just to show feedback that this is a type of motorcycle that, at least for us, we really respond to, because you get that modern components, modern performance, but you get vintage styling in a way that I think mixes really well. And we're hoping that this kind of motorcycle becomes a more common thing. I mean, like the XSR 900, that's another one of our favorite bikes out there, because you get that modern engine, the CP3, but you also get that funky retro styling. These kinds of bikes are really cool.
I mean, yeah, I like a bike that is super, super fun to ride, but I also want to step off the bike and turn around and look back at it and be like, wow, that's my bike, and be really proud of it. So this is something that looks like, you know, it's got a lot of power, it'd be fun to ride, but also it'd be really fun to just look back at and stare at in your garage when you can't ride it.
I think it looks a little bit more special than the really angular stuff that's been on the market for a long time. Bikes have been doing that for quite a while. And so it's good to see at least the option to go in a different direction, where you have at least a few components that are a little bit more rounded out, and they just stand out from the rest of the bikes that have been on the market a lot for the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years, more angular stuff.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, the Honda Hawk 11. Also a pretty simple name in a day and age when a lot of manufacturers are doing like names that we can't even fit in the title box on YouTube.
Honda is also guilty of.
Yeah,
because the CBR 1000 RR-R Fireblade SP, that's a hell of a name.
30th anniversary edition. Yeah. That's a long name. So Honda Hawk 11, like the name. Let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Would you like to see this come to the States, and do you think it will? And we'll catch you in the next video.